It must be one of the most amazing flying stories of all time. An airliner full of passengers out of control at 17,000 feet, and the pilot is stuck outside the plane. In the cockpit, 3 frightened flight attendants are clinging to his legs. If he slips from their grasp, the captain's body could be sucked into the engine and bring down the plane. At the controls, a young co-pilot is battling to get the plane to the nearest airport. Of all time, an airliner. For the crew of the British Airways flight from Birmingham, England to Malaga, Spain, the 10th of June began like any other day.
Yeah, but I'm not doing it.
Stewards Nigel Ogden and Simon Rogers, along with stewardess Sue Prince, had worked together on and off for years.
At Birmingham, all the cabin crew and all the pilots, they all knew each other. We're all on first-name terms.
The one new member of the group was Alistair Acheson, an experienced co-pilot. He'd just driven down from Manchester that morning.
Come on in.
Tim Lancaster is captain. He's been a commercial pilot for 21 years.
Well, we've got to get started, eh?
Before takeoff, the co-pilot performs a walk-around, checking the outside of the aircraft for anything wrong. In the cockpit, Captain Tim Lancaster reviews a log of the maintenance carried out on the plane the day before.
Everything okay?
Fine.
She's just come out of maintenance by the look of it. Nothing much though. Just changed the windscreen.
Many of the passengers know the flight well and are looking forward to a relaxed trip to Spain. These unsuspecting passengers and crew were about to begin an adventure of a lifetime.
Seem to have made yourself comfortable.
Too right.
Birmingham Tower, Speedbird 5390. We're ready to start and push.
Speedbird 5390.
It must be one of the most amazing flying stories of all time. An airliner full of passengers out of control at 17,000 feet, and the pilot is stuck outside the plane. In the cockpit, 3 frightened flight attendants are clinging to his legs. If he slips from their grasp, the captain's body could be sucked into the engine and bring down the plane. At the controls, a young co-pilot is battling to get the plane to the nearest airport. For the crew of the British Airways flight from Birmingham, England to Malaga, Spain, the 10th of June began like any other day.
Yeah, but I'm not doing it.
Stewards Nigel Ogden and Simon Rogers, along with stewardess Sue Prince, had worked together on and off for years.
At Birmingham, all the cabin crew and all the pilots, they all knew each other. We're all on first-name terms.
The one new member of the group was Alistair Acheson, an experienced co-pilot he'd just driven down from Manchester that morning.
Come on in.
Tim Lancaster is captain. He's been a commercial pilot for 21 years.
Well, we've got to get started, eh?
Before takeoff, the co-pilot performs a walk-around, checking the outside of the aircraft for anything wrong. In the cockpit, Captain Tim Lancaster reviews a log of the maintenance carried out on the plane the day before.
Everything okay?
Fine.
She's just come out of maintenance by the look of it. Hardly much, though. Just changed the windscreen.
Many of the passengers know the flight well and are looking forward to a relaxed trip to Spain. These unsuspecting passengers and crew were about to begin an adventure of a lifetime.
Seem to have made yourself comfortable.
Too right.
Birmingham Tower, Speedbird 5390. We're ready to start and push.
Speedbird 5390. Clear to start and push.
Knots.
The BAC 111 was known as the Jeep of the skies, a workhorse that was easy to maintain and had a good safety record. At 43 tons, this pressurized hull is carrying 81 passengers and 6 crew, and is now climbing to 23,000 feet. In just over 2 hours, they should be in Spain. Only a catastrophic accident could bring this plane out of the skies. 2 minutes into the climb, the pilots switch on the autopilot. Tim Lancaster takes off his shoulder straps and relaxes into the flight.
Now I went into the flight deck to ask Tim and Alistair what they would like to drink.
You gentlemen like a tea?
Please, the usual.
Milk, 1 sugar, please.
And I said, your breakfast's on. It'll only be a few minutes.
Now, almost 13 minutes after takeoff, and at 17,300 feet, they're just 5,000 feet from their assigned altitude. But then, in a split second, everything changes. With a huge explosion, the captain's windscreen blows out into the sky. Almost immediately, a white fog forms.
A sort of really intense stomach, body-shaking thud.
We were just diving, really. And then we started to judder like this.
And I was a bit stunned. I thought, oh God, it's a bomb.
Alistair, the co-pilot, is suddenly fighting for control in a 350-mile-an-hour wind. There's no time to think about the captain, who's been blasted out of the window by pressurized air escaping from the aircraft. The rushing wind pins Captain Lancaster to the roof of the cockpit. Inside, his legs have jammed the control column forward, disconnecting the autopilot and pushing the plane down into a dive. Co-pilot Alistair Acheson has to take command. While he fights to bring the plane under control, steward Nigel Ogden can see his captain is being sucked out of the aircraft.
And I looked in, the flight deck door was resting on the controls, and all I could see was Tim out the window. I jumped over, put one foot in the captain's footwell, and the other one was down the side of his seat. I just grabbed him before he went out completely.
Nigel Ogden holds on to the captain for dear life. Outside, a 390-mile-an-hour blast of wind at minus 17 degrees centigrade smashes into Tim Lancaster's body. The The tornado in the cockpit is giving Acheson major problems. Air traffic control can hear his cries for help, but the storm rushing through the cockpit drowns out their replies. The captain's feet are still pushing against the control column, and Alistair is struggling to get full control of the plane. He's now diving through some of the busiest air lanes in the world, with the added danger of a mid-air collision. From the cabin, lead steward John Heward sees the chaos in the cockpit and does what he can to help.
I looked up and there was Nigel sort of hanging across the seat in the flight deck. In front of me, the flight deck door had fallen forwards and trapped itself between the actual door frame and the throttles of the aircraft. So I literally stamped on it twice, and it literally broke into 3 or 4 pieces. Behind, on the wall of the flight deck, there is a spare seat for anybody to observe the flight or whatever. And I thought, well, if I put my arm through the seatbelt there, I can grab both of them, and at least we've got some sort of anchor point inside the aircraft.
Alistair, who's never flown with this crew before, has to leave them to their own devices and focus on getting the plane to safety. He now has control of the throttles. John and Nigel have wrenched the captain's feet away from the control column. But instead of slowing down, Acheson decides to continue the rapid descent. It will quickly take him out of the way of any other air traffic and take him to a lower altitude where oxygen equipment won't be needed. Staying too long at a high altitude risks oxygen starvation, and this older aircraft is not fully equipped with oxygen for all the passengers on board. The airspeed indicator goes into the red. They've dived to 11,000 feet in just 2.5 minutes. But as they level out and slow down to 170 miles per hour, the captain's body is no longer pinned to the roof and slides round to the side of the plane. Working his way from the back of the cabin, steward Simon Rogers now catches sight of the chaos in the cockpit for the first time.
Now the aircraft had got to sort of flying fairly level, Simon came up from the back. Nigel was beginning to get really sort of achy now with his arms, and I knew he wasn't going to let go unless he was sure that Tim wouldn't fly out of the window.
We all had fear in our eyes. We were all worried sick because we thought, you know, either Tim's going to die or we're going to die, you know. That was going through my mind. But it was up to Alistair then, and it was up to us three, Simon and John and myself, to hold on to grim death. All I remember is Tim's arms flailing out. His arms seemed about 6 foot long. And I'll never forget that. His eyes were wide open. I mean, his face was hitting the side of the side screen. But he didn't blink. And I thought to myself, and I said to John, I said, I think he's dead. I think he's dead. And I said, you and Sil have to hold on. I can't hold on anymore. I can't hold on anymore. I've lost the feeling in my arms.
And we decided to put Simon, I said to Simon, you sit in that jump seat and fasten yourself in. With Simon sitting in the seat, we'd freed Tim's legs from between the control column and the seat. So we hooked his feet over the back of the captain's seat, and then Simon literally put his hands on the top, just so he was holding his ankles down.
Simon and Alistair now face one of their most difficult decisions: what to do with the lifeless body of the captain. No words are said, but for a moment the thought passes between them that the best thing would simply be to let it go.
Can you hold on to it, please?
But Alistair's order isn't simply an act of compassion.
Releasing the body at the position it was in, it would have gone close to the upper area of the wing. It could have damaged the leading edge of the wing. Had it gone over the wing, it could very well have gone into the engine. Quite a lot of damage could have been caused by the release of the body. So I think it was a very sensible decision to try and keep him where he was.
Alistair has managed to get down to 11,000 feet. Without the captain to help, he's operating the plane's systems from memory and shepherding it around Heathrow, some of the most congested airspace in the world. 7 minutes out of contact with the ground, he's able to hear the voice of air traffic control for the first time.
Requesting radar assistance onto the nearest airfield, please.
Speedbird 5390, roger. Can you accept landing at Southampton?
Speedbird 5390, I am familiar with Gatwick. Would appreciate Gatwick.
Alistair wants to land at Gatwick Airport, as he's flown there many times before. But Southampton is nearer, and even though he's never flown there before, he knows he has to get down fast.
And I am on 150 knots. Requesting radar assistance into Southampton.
When you're going to an airport that you're not used to, you normally have charts, let-down plates, that kind of thing that you can read up on and learn something of the airport you're going to. But he knew nothing of Southampton. He hadn't been there. He had no charts because everything had gone out the window. There was no let-down plates to look at the approach and so on.
All the maps and charts blew out of the window with the captain, and only the air traffic controller can guide Atchison. He turns towards Southampton.
Southampton, this is Speedbird 5390. Do you read?
Speedbird 5390. Good morning.
Identified on handover from London radar 6 miles west of Southampton
Airfield. What is your passing level?
Roger, sir. I am not familiar with Southampton. Request you shepherd me onto the runway.
When he spoke, he was obviously stressed. It sounded as if he was under a fair bit of pressure.
What is your number of persons on board?
We have 84 passengers on board, and I think that will be all until we are on the ground.
Roger, that's copied. I've been advised it's pressurisation failure. Is that the only problem?
Negative. The captain is half out of the aeroplane, I understand. I believe he's dead.
Roger, that is copied.
My feeling was, when he told me what was going on, it was one of disbelief, because it doesn't actually happen. You know, it's one of these things that you see in films, that happens in films, but it doesn't happen in real life. And it was sort of the hairs in the back of the neck go up, and there's this feeling down the spine, the tingle down the spine, and you think, no, it's not for real, but it's got to be.
Flight attendant holding on to him, but request an emergency facility for the captain. I think he is dead.
Affirm. What is your passing level?
Leaving flight level 5,500 feet on 1019.
Roger, that's copied. I'll give you a little bit more space, then I'll turn you on to a heading of 180. Yeah, it's a full emergency. It's a 111.
Rundle contacts the emergency services at the first opportunity.
Are on board, but I'll let you know.
Could you confirm that the length of runway at Southampton is acceptable for a 111?
Yes, it is
Acceptable for a 111, and I'll give you the figures shortly.
As long as we have at least 2,500 metres, I am happy.
I'm afraid we don't have 2,500 metres.
Neither do Bournemouth. We have a maximum of 1,800 metres.
Atchison is concerned that the plane is above its maximum landing weight, being full of fuel for the journey to Malaga. And the BAC 111 can't dump fuel. If the runway isn't long enough, he faces more problems.
Whether the aircraft could actually stop on the runway, or whether the tyres would burst, or whether he would go off the end of the runway. That's obviously what he was worried about when asking for
Stomach,
2,200
body shaking
metres.
thud.
5390. Thank you very much.
We were just diving, really.
3 greens and
And then we started to judder like this.
And I was a bit stunned.
So we
I
are
thought,
set for approach, but
God,
make it
it's a
please.
bomb.
Very good.
Yes, I would indeed. You are number one captain.
Alistair, the co-pilot,
Think
is
about it,
suddenly
all the
fighting for
airline
control
pilot
in a
training is
350
done
mile an
with
hour wind.
2 pilots.
There's
both
no time to think
compartmentis
about
in
the
cockpit.
captain,
One
who's been
flying
blasted
the
out of the
aeroplane, and
window
the other
by
one doing all the
pressurized
emergency
air
drills.
escaping from
so
the
what you
aircraft.
actually had was the captain hanging out the window, at least one person hanging onto his legs.
The rushing
and
wind pins
Alistair
Captain
flying the
Lancaster to the
aeroplane
roof
with
of the
nobody else
cockpit.
to talk to.
Speedbird of 5390.
It's 9
being
miles from
sucked out of
touchdown.
the
You're
aircraft.
clear to land. Wind indicates 020 degrees at 14 knots. Descend to height to 15 for 00 feet.
QFE is 1017.
Roger, sir. Descending to 1,500 feet. Talk me down all the way. I need all the help I can get.
Roger, you'll be able to stop the aircraft.
On the runway and evacuate the aircraft on the runway.
He must have been about 6 or 7 miles from touchdown. And obviously at that point I kept talking until he was happy he could see the runway. I was happy to continue looking out the window and land the aeroplane. At the point he said he was visual with the runway, I effectively stopped talking.
Not acknowledge unless requested. It will be an uninterrupted talk down, but feel free.
Free to interrupt if you feel you need to.
5390. Thank you very much. I have the runway in sight.
Thank you. You are clear to land. Do you wish me to continue with any further information?
Negative.
"32 minutes after takeoff, with 81 terrified passengers, a nearly full fuel tank, and the captain blasted out of the window, Alistair Acheson attempts the most difficult landing of his career. At 8:55 a.m., flight BA 5390 makes a perfect landing at Southampton Airport. Immediately, emergency vehicles surround the plane.
Good day, good evening, citizens of Paralake channel. Because of problems with the content ID of this video, we can't show it, and we are very sorry, but it's we can't anything do against this. That's only because of YouTube, because you blocked the live stream because of this video. We hope yeah, that it's possible doesn't happen again or something, and yeah, we will show you another video, but not Mayday investigations. We will show you now our episode of Cops. I wish you having fun. Till the end of the video.
Why? Because this is an illegal parking zone because then
Fun.
What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, bad boys. What you gonna do?
Cops is filmed on location with the men and women of law enforcement. All suspects are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law.
I've been. Oh, I'm obviously from police department. We need a medic to the city.
Dear citizens, sorry, dear watchers of Paralake channel, we can't play the last movie that has been the complete channel has been crashed because of this video. It's taking too much CPU. That's why we need to show you another video. We need to set other settings so we are able to show everything what we have. The channel has been set.
10 weird facts about dreams. Number 10. Threat simulation. Dreaming may be an evolutionary technique that helped humanity survive by allowing us to practice responses to threatening situations while we sleep. This would explain why our dreams are often made up of events far more threatening than our waking lives. Finnish scientist Antti Revenuso has shown that while we are dreaming, the part of our brains that determines fight or flight is more active than usual. In addition, the area of the brain that practices motor activity, such as running and punching, is also extremely active, despite bodies being paralyzed during rapid eye movement sleep, the period when dreaming takes place. Number 9. Dream gender differences. Studies have found that there are significant gender differences in dream content. One study analysed 100,000 people's reported dreams and found that while men often dream of cars, weapons and violence, women's dreams centre around familiar situations such as home or the workplace. Women's sexual dreams were more likely to be of someone they knew in real life, while men's sex dreams tended to be about characters they'd invented. This is assumed to be both due to environmental and biological gender differences, with male testosterone thought to contribute to thoughts of aggression and sex that are played out in dreams. Number 8. Dream déjà vu. The feeling of a new situation being familiar, known as déjà vu, is a similar process to what occurs during dreaming. When dreaming about real places such as our home, it can often look like a completely different house. But because of a feeling of familiarity that comes with the dream, we know where the dream is taking place. This is because dreaming, like déjà vu, is created by a network of memory traces that can evoke the feeling of familiarity, allowing us to recognize a situation without a clear memory or understanding of why. Some scientists are investigating the alternative idea of precognitive dreams, the experience of living future events whilst in a dream state. Although more than 50% of people claim to experience precognitive dreams, science has yet to prove this phenomenon. Number 7. Do animals dream? Most land mammals and birds have dreams. While pet owners may have noticed their cats or dogs appearing to act out their dreams in their sleep, scientists have determined that even rats have complex dreams,